Born in Boston, Massachusetts, John Singleton Copley was one of the most famous artists pre and during the Revolutionary era for America. He was famous for his lifelike portraits in their detail, lighting, and texture. Much of his work is still seen to this day and depicts mostly rich and middle class people of the times. By far his most famous painting is the portrait of then silversmith Paul Revere, who would later go on to famously yell his warnings of the coming British during the Revolutionary War. Revere in this painting goes out of his way to portray himself as a middle-class citizen by wearing a more casual outfit and an absence of a wig. The folds on this outfit are incredibly lifelike, with the detail and shadows cascading downwards. The white shirt pops with the black and absent background contained in the painting. Moving down to his hand, you can see his line of work. He holds a silver teapot, indicating his job as a silversmith. However, it's no mistake that the item he's holding is a teapot, as it's more of a political statement. As for the detail on the teapot, it's almost unmatched with anything else in the painting. Its lifelike reflectivity and a realistic reflection from his hand give off a good sense of reflection. Along with this, the table itself is incredibly well done in a reflective texture. Creating more lifelike imagery such as this is what John Singleton was known for. And yes, it does kind of look like Jack Black. Watson and the Shark is actually kind of an interesting piece of his. Well, at first, it appears to just be a boy about to be swallowed by the amphibious creature. It's actually based off of a true story of a boy who was rescued by a shark. The painting was done in a recreation of the event. However, there are some interesting things to note about this painting beyond its initial subject matter. Upon closer inspection, you might notice the shark looks odd. This is mostly due to the fact that John Singleton Copley had never seen a shark before, and his depiction here is only done off of what he believed a shark would look like, with no real basis outside of other illustrations and hearsay. Things like it having lips and its odd cat eyes stand out, and then you look even further and it has odd nostrils as well. Beyond the odd shark though, this painting is a beautiful piece with a nice green tone to it, and the haunting image of the boy drowning in the water about to be eaten. Watson, the boy below, is pale, scared, frightened, and the fear can be seen in his face along with the sailors. Another thing interesting to note is, oddly, one of the sailors in findings of the painting's past was actually once a white, long-haired man, but was eventually changed to an African that would also be the star of another painting of his. The reason for this change is not really known, but it does add some intrigue to see an older painting such as this to feature an African not done in a more characteristic style, and a simply more real portrait. The painting overall is a grim-looking tale, but also displays his artistic abilities in not just doing portraits. This painting's weird history aside, it's by far one of his most beautiful works. Another example of a portrait done by John Singleton Copley is this one of Dorothy Murray. There's no fancy backstory behind this one, but it is another good way of showing off his abilities. This painting, done of Dorothy Murray, is a very yellow hued image, with Dorothy herself fortunately standing out due to the pale skin Copley painted her with. Much of the white frills and finer details on the dress also help show her figure, as the yellow of the dress and the brown of the background seem to merge. The flowers, with the red flower in particular, stand out even more due to their non-monochromatic appearance. With only one light source in the painting coming from the left side, her right arm seems to completely disappear into the background. Overall, this is a nice portrait of Copley's. And lastly, I want to talk about my favorite piece by his, A Boy and His Squirrel. This piece in particular, I think, shows off all of his abilities to their maximum extent. Everything from the reflection of the table to the realistic reflection as well on his drink and pink collar, to the amount of individual hairs you're able to pick out on both the boy and his pet, give this such a picturesque quality that, other than this, I don't think is rarely seen outside of Copley's own work. The beautiful red curtains in the background and the mahogany type table give a luscious red vibe. A chromatic tone that doesn't completely engulf the image though, as the boy is clearly visible and doesn't necessarily become swallowed by the amount of red, but rather does a good job at contrasting it, his black jacket creating a silhouette, and his pale skin giving a nice side profile, something uncommon at the time. If you can even pay attention closely enough, the chain for such a small object is done with such exquisite detail, each of them having light that would seem real. Overall, I think this is a stunning piece that does wonders to show the skill and realism Copley was able to achieve with his art. To sum things up, I think John Singleton Copley was by far one of the best artists, if not the best artist of his time, and I hope my enjoyment for his work comes across.